Hi guys, this is Ignis Aurelius from the Order here on NA. I'm going to go ahead and give a rundown of all the chivalric units that are currently available in the game. And I'll recommend which ones are good, which veterancy lines are currently considered meta, and why they are. And we're going to get that kicked off with the first unit in the chivalric era known as Pike Militia. These guys currently ring in at 110 leadership. They are definitely spear type units. You get 14 of, or 32 of them actually. You got fast learner, easier to level. But cutting to what they're actually good at is they can absolutely hold a line behind someone's sheared wall on siege. On a siege tower down a corridor, pretty freaking well. Their veterancy line you need to go down is straight down the center, and then I recommend knockback at the end. This center line, crit value, piercing damage, armor penetration, column formation is the main purpose here. What that does is it stacks them so tight that even though they're only a 2-star unit, a chivalric unit, they still have enough stopping power to kill a hero or charge units, prefecture guards, what have you. Aside from that, obviously brace damage is always a welcome thing on these type of units. They are cheap, they're effective, they could hold off some cavalry in their lines there. Disperse, line, they could hold cavalry against some chivalric cavalry. Other times, it just depends. But for their cost comparison, you'll get a lot of use out of them for stopping enemy advances. And plus, it's the only real counter for cavalry that works until halberdiers. Pike help, but they still get around your pikes. So moving on, we have their honor line. Pike thrust training is something I would recommend maybe dump an A point into. These aren't great units to begin with, so 5% of a little is still just a little bit more. So not something I generally recommend, but I'd dump a point in if you're seeing a lot of cavalry in your field battles. Iron Cap Swordsmen are definitely what I consider the best chivalric unit. Reason being, these guys are so... I tell everyone I play with, these are staple units. Everyone should bring these when they're trying to save money. Even in territory wars, they're pretty solid. They are definitely charge units. They have shock troop and also assault troop. Their veterancy bonus line, you'll want to go on that top. It's all about charge, duration, cooldown, charge damage, all that good stuff. So definitely something you'll want to do there. These guys can 2-tap heroes, so 2 collisions will generally kill a hero. It takes, a stack of them. Put them in column formation, charge them down. I usually get about 100 to 120 unit kills with them in a match when they do well. They're cheap, 600 bronze when they die, so everyone can bring them and definitely save a lot of money that way. Charge drill is the only thing on their honor line worth getting. I'd dump 3 out of 3 on it if you have the honor. Don't invest in endurance training, it doesn't actually work. The cooldown reduction is currently bugged. These are probably the best chivalric unit. Always have these, always use them, they're wonderful. Moving down, we have the Demets Javelineers. I say give these guys a miss. They're the worst javelins. They have light javelins, which don't do nearly as much damage. Their leadership cost is low, they're cheap to build, but ultimately, the only thing javelins are really useful for is holding supply points. And these guys can't do that because they have two lighter javelins. They just don't bring enough damage against heroes. On that note, the Javelin Militia are the exact opposite. They have heavy javelins, very little they can throw. They're a little cheaper on leadership, 110. These guys are solid because they can't actually kill heroes that are trying to charge your supply point, because they have those heavy javelins. So you'll want to park them on a supply or keep them nearby. They require some micromanaging like that. They're decent in combat, and their veterancy line, you'll definitely want to go the top one. Block break, crit value, penetration, block, a charge-like ability, and finally more units. Definitely something you'll want to do. The bottom line is okay, but ultimately it's just... it's too typecasted. We're not really worried about, reducing their resupply costs in such a cheap unit. Definitely not worth it, but you can get some solid use out of these. They're pretty cheap, like all chivalric units are. The only thing that's worth getting in them, honestly, you're not going to get a lot of use out of either one of those honor points if they're not meant for melee, sustained melee at least. I'd put it down in damage up here and on guard, but I'd give that a miss too. Moving on to ranged infantry. Between the Dements Archers and Dements Crossbowmen, Dements Archers definitely come ahead. They're great on some maps like Harbor City and some field maps. They're definitely more useful than the Crossbowmen. These guys are pretty accurate. Their top upgrade line is definitely better than their bottom. Once again, doing cheaper resupply and casualty when you're just doing matchmaking really isn't worth it. Leadership's cheap at 120. Get a fair amount of them. They have this, it's unique to them, Castle or Archer trait. Pardon me. When they're at a higher elevation than their target, they get bonus damage and what have you, bonus accuracy. So they're definitely good for defense, or once you get up over the walls, using this cheap unit to rain mayhem onto points is great. And then from there, let's go, sorry about that, back to the unit tree. Defense crossbowmen, the reason I give them a miss is just because they're so inaccurate. In fact, I believe they actually have a trait, no volleys. They don't fire in coordination, which is going to be hard to focus down a hero. They're too easy to dive. They can't focus down cavalry. And they're just mediocre accuracy. Even on their top line, which is their better upgrade line, it unfortunately just is not good enough. However, it should be noted that mercenary crossbowmen are pretty alright, so if you're looking to use crossbows, fire archers don't work great during the rain, neither do muskets. Crossbows work always, so there's an argument to have for that. Just not a very strong one. If you were going to upgrade anything, I would go ahead and do their rate of fire. I'd probably dump 1 or 2 points into that, just because it's a little bit faster. Iron Cap archers, these guys are better for field battles than Demence archers are. They're just as cheap to, I think they're a little bit more bronze to re-kit, but not too much. They have better upgrades on the honor. See accuracy, they get 20% accuracy, they get 10% more or 10% more range. Ultimately, a pretty solid archer, especially flaming arrow here on the top line. A lot of times I say just top line. I'm sorry about that. It's just how it happens occasionally. At the top line, when attacking, chance to shoot a flaming arrow. Definitely solid guys. They're 140 leadership. Their range is, of course, only 60. But they're pretty solid. They're better for field battles. They're more of a skirmishing archer than fire and forget like you have with the Demence up here. Because the Demence, has same range, but they're designed to sit on a wall. These guys are a little bit more micromanagey, so I like them more. They're more active, but Demence archers work just fine for defense. Also, by getting those, you unlock the Prefecture Guards, which are probably one of the strongest range units in the game right now. They don't get a lot of love because they're not as flashy as the Fire Archers, but keep that in mind, they're still solid. Finally, the Iron Cap muskets for range units. These guys are great. But be aware, they take a while to get used to. They're really bad when you first get them, but they pan out. Once again, top line. Their problems with the Iron Cap muskets is they have terrible accuracy, and they shoot really slow. However, as you level them up, you get rate of fire. Rate of fire again, 2 upgrades in accuracy. Another one in rate of fire. And these guys fix their problem. Pardon me again, not feeling too well. And of course they have an honor upgrade for rate of fire. I don't play with muskets, as you can tell. It's not my playstyle, but these guys are solid. They're cheap. They're great for starting out. They can kill heroes, and if you elite them, they're a solid choice when working on a budget. You can't go wrong with them. Cavalry. The only unit I can recommend from this era is Courtiers. I don't know how to say that word, so let me know if I'm saying it wrong. These guys are lancemen. That's why they're so good if you played Mountain Blade. We all know how great lances are here. They have long distance charge, which allows them to go through a line and continue to the archers that someone's trying to protect behind them. And you could charge from further away around a blind corner, stuff like that. They're great for that. Veterancy line is top line for charge. It beefs up their charge. That's what they're for. They're absolutely great. I don't recommend these for starting out players. Their leadership may be low of 125, but when you have cavalry, you have to worry about their horses, their mounts, in this case, genets. Very expensive bronze-wise, and their kits. And so they cost them the same amount of kit as anyone else. It's just you also have to worry about mounts. So if you're tied on bronze, cavalry is going to be a money pit for you. So keep that in mind when you're looking at cavalry. Iron Cap Scout Cavalry, they're definitely good for skirmishing, maybe as a follow-up after the lances go through. But I honestly don't recommend them. They don't perform as well as Courtiers, and if you're looking to be a cavalry-centric unit, definitely grab them. They're fun to play with, but they're just not as good as lances. Finally, Iron Cap Bow Riders for cavalry. They're a solid unit, but they're very, very situational. I want them to be good. I love the idea. But due to the design of the game, it's the only one right now. There are no upgrades for it, really. So currently their only use is either in field battles to counter cavalry, or in open world battles when you're either being attacked or attacking people in the open world, because they can kite around and just kill things over time. So definitely good for that, not great for matchmaking. What I've seen them use really effectively is when I go out with my Courtiers. If I'm on defense in a siege, I open up the gate. I go out. I go wreak mayhem, get some easy kills. Someone will eventually switch to Iron Cap Bow Riders, and they just counter cavalry. They will shut down Scout Cavalry or Courtiers, no problem. And finally, we have the Chivalric unit Dement Spearmen. These guys are better than the Eastern unit Spear Militia, for sure. No doubt about it. They are better than them for most things. However, their block value is much lower. Their leadership rings in at 145. You get a fair amount of them, but ultimately, as you can see by their unit summary, it's about accurate. They got a lot of people, 35 to begin with. They can kind of hold a line, but they're so easy to crack with the hero. A long sword will run through these and just deck them. Same with, really any hero can just wipe these guys out in like 6 seconds. They're not great for holding lines against other melee either, but they are slightly geared better towards cavalry because they get like a semi-brace kind of thing going on because they're Dement Spearmen. So I don't give these guys a recommendation. If you're going to go ahead and go down the line anyway to get to Spear Sergeants, which are great, or obviously Men-at-Arms, which wonderful unit, you're going to have to pick these up anyway, and if you live in Australia, it could definitely be worth your time, but honestly, for 145 leadership, I would rather go ahead and just, bite the bullet and use 190 for Iron Cap Spearmen, which are just way more solid. They got the bigger shields. And speaking of bigger shields, even the Spear Militia have these bigger shields, meaning that they have, they just have more block value. It takes more time for units to get through them. So ultimately, I don't give them a recommendation. They can be good for field battles where you expect to see a lot of cav, or, in general, they're okay, but it's hard for me to give them a recommendation because they're just so easy to die. And if I'm going to bring a shield, I'd rather bring Spear Militia. Honestly, because they're cheaper, they're easier to field, and they have a little bit more tankiness to them, and I don't see a lot of cavalry. And if I do, at my era, I bring, anti-cavalry units. I'd rather have someone with, as mentioned before, Spear Militia with a Pike Militia behind it than 2 people with Dement Spearmen to counter cav. Either way, that does go ahead and cover all of the Chivalric units currently available in the game, my personal thoughts, recommendations, any unit line upgrades on them. Yeah, let me go ahead and go over their veterancy. You're going to want to go top line. That's generally what you want to go on these guys is almost always top line, because this is just urban damage. This makes them a little bit more tanky, and I feel like that's what they're missing. This top line is tankiness. Block value 120, more units, and I just think that that's what they're missing. They don't need more damage. If you're bringing Dement Spearmen in the hopes of killing something, you're bringing the wrong unit. So I think it covers all the Chivalric units pretty well. If you guys have any questions or comments, or if I pronounce something wrong, I'm sure I'm saying Dement's wrong, just let me know, and I'll go ahead and look into. If you have questions about how to use these units, I could look into doing a highlight video for the unit itself. But aside from that, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you guys are enjoying the game as much as I am. I think it's been a pretty solid game since launch, so thanks for cluing in.